Hello, everyone. Now we are on section 4 of ancient Rome, talking about the Republic's growth and then crisis. So first, I'm going to talk to you a bit about the Punic Wars. The Punic Wars. So let's go over to a map. All right, here's Rome. Here's Italy. Down here is a place called Carthage. That's C-A-R-T-H-A-G-E, Carthage. Carthage controlled part of Sicily and part of Spain and a whole bunch in here. And Rome wanted to defeat Carthage, and Carthage and Rome were always fighting for who was going to control all this part over here. This is the Mediterranean Sea. Who's going to control the Western Mediterranean? If you say Western Mediterranean, they mean this part over here. So at one point, a general from Carthage, a Carthage general named Hannibal, took 40,000 soldiers and 40 elephants he had brought from Africa to Spain. Now he's marched his soldiers all the way up here and across the Alps. You know, there are mountains, big mountains here, mountains like we have, crossed over the Alps into Italy and fought with Roman soldiers. Man, he fought and fought and fought and was almost winning. The wars went on for years, and Rome just kept fighting until a Roman general named Scipio put a bunch of his soldiers on boats and came over here to Carthage and attacked Carthage. And when Scipio was attacking Carthage, that's when Hannibal said, they're attacking my hometown. And Hannibal went back to Carthage, and Scipio destroyed Hannibal in his hometown. And then Rome gained control of all of this. So now I'm going to go back and write those names down for you. So Hannibal was from Carthage. And in the year 218 BCE, that's when he took his army and elephants from Spain. They marched through Europe all the way across the Alps and into Italy and fought with Roman soldiers. They were fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and the war lasted a long time. Well, years later, in 204 BCE, a Roman general named Scipio took his army to Carthage and started attacking Carthage. And Carthage is where Hannibal is from. So Hannibal saw Scipio attacking his home and went, can't have that. We have to go to Carthage and save our home. And that's where Scipio the Roman destroyed Hannibal, won the war, claimed all the land for Rome. But for like forever, Carthage had been the Roman enemy. Like when you think of the bad guy, it was always Carthage. And so all the way, we're talking 60 years later, in 146 BCE, Romans still fear Carthage. Like Carthage is always the bad guy, always the villain in everything. Ah, the Carthans did it. So it was so bad that there was even this one senator that every single time he ever gave a speech, he ended his speech. The last thing he said was, Carthage must be destroyed. I mean, even if he was talking about, even if he was giving a speech on raising taxes, if he was giving a speech on making the schools better, he ended his speech with Carthage must be destroyed. And so because everybody just hated Carthage so much, in this year, 146, Rome attacked Carthage. They burned the city down, they looted, that means they stole from them. They captured the citizens of Carthage and sold them off as slaves. Now Carthage is defeated once and for all. It is gone. Rome is in complete control of the entire Western Mediterranean. At that time, let me go back to my map. So here's Rome. Rome has conquered all of this now. All this belongs to Rome. Well, they also sent armies this way to come over here and attack this area. So now at this point, Rome is a republic. Now, we spent a whole lot of time explaining what a republic is. It's a republic, but it is also an empire. It's ruling an empire because an empire is one great state that controls other countries. So the republic here controls Spain. The Republic controls this part of North Africa. The Republic is controlling lands over here, which makes it an empire. Now, Rome sent politicians, magistrates. Rome sent magistrates to be in charge of all these lands. But as they're far away from Rome and the Senate isn't right there to watch over them, these magistrates became super corrupt. They were really, really corrupt, bad people. They were stealing to make themselves richer, and along with money comes power. They were becoming power-hungry, corrupt politicians. The government really almost collapsed. It was not working how it was supposed to work. When Rome was smaller and they could have a tight hand and control everything. But as it's growing and there are more and more politicians and they're becoming more and more corrupt, things are kind of falling apart. At the same time, Rome itself is becoming richer and richer and richer and richer, but the poor are becoming more and more and more poor. And the poor themselves are not only becoming more poor, we're getting more poor people. Because as the rich people get richer, they can afford to buy more slaves. They don't have to pay someone to work for them anymore. They can just have a slave to do it for free. But when they don't need someone to work for them, then the poor person that needed that job doesn't have a job anymore. And so Rome, like these poor people from the countryside are wandering into the cities looking for work, and the streets are just getting full of poor people like looking for food, looking for work. Now, when there are a lot of poor people, there's a possibility of a riot and a revolution, because we talked in class, you guys could overpower me if you wanted to. There are many more of you than there is just me. Well, in society, there are far more poor people than there are rich people. And so the rich people lived in this fear of the poor people are going to revolt. They're going to rise up against us. And so lots of the senators, lots of the powerful people thought, we have to do something to keep these people placated, to keep them calm, to make sure they don't overrun us. And one thing that they did was they would give free grain to the poor, grain like food. They would give free food to the poor to try to like keep them calm and keep them happy and make sure they don't revolt. Well, out of this came kind of two different political parties. There were the politicians that wanted to help the poor, and there were the politicians that said, forget the poor. I don't care anything about them. And these political parties had gangs that worked for them that went out in the streets and they fought each other. Actual gangs of people got into fights over supporting, like, which politician do they support? Do they support the politician that wants to help the poor, or help the politician that says, screw the poor, I don't care about them? And in the year 123 BCE, there was a famous tribune. Hopefully you all remember what a tribune is. That's like the speaker for the plebs. And this really famous tribune named Tiberius Gracchus. Tiberius Gracchus tried to get a law made that would give land to the poor. And some of his opponents from this political party, they murdered him. They murdered the tribune. And later, Tiberius's brother named Gaius, so this is Gaius Gracchus, he tried the same thing. He tried to help the poor by giving them land, and they also killed him. Later, there was another guy named Gaius. It was just a popular name back then. This is a completely different Gaius. Same name, different person. Gaius Marius was a famous consul. And he was one of the help the poor sides. And he reformed the army. To reform is to change, to make things better. If you're changing something to make it better, it's a reform. Well, he reformed the army. Do you guys remember at the beginning of this chapter, who was it that was expected to serve in the army? Anyone that could afford to buy their own armor. Well, that was the case all the way until the year BCE. Gaius Marius changed that, and he said even the poorest of the poor can be in the army. If they're so poor they can't even afford armor, the government will buy it for them. And so it made the army suddenly much bigger and stronger. They had more soldiers, and people would stay in the army for years and years and years because it was the only way they could support their family. And these soldiers became completely dedicated to their army commanders. Like they would do anything for their commander, and their commander was usually good to them. When soldiers got too old to fight and they retired and they still needed some way to live, their commander would find a way to get them land. And so these soldiers were so dedicated to their commander. But then that made it so that army commanders became really powerful in Roman society. They weren't just guys that led armies. For society, they were really, really powerful people. And they used their power. Sometimes commanders, army commanders, would convince their soldiers to go to war against the Roman government. So they are Roman themselves. But if the government does something they didn't like, the commanders would have their soldiers fight against the government. Well, that is called a civil war. If there's a fight inside a country with two rival teams from the same country fighting each other, that's a civil war. So now there are these civil wars happening inside Rome, where Roman commanders are fighting against Roman senators or against other Roman commanders. There was a pretty famous one in the year 87 BCE. This commander named Sulla was chosen to fight an enemy of Rome. But the assembly voted Sulla out and voted this guy Marius in. They voted him to lead the war. Well, Sulla, of course, was not very happy about that, marched his entire army into Rome to fight the Senate, fight the assembly, and fight Marius. And Sulla won. Sulla named himself the dictator of Rome and took strict control of all of Rome for a little more than a year. And a little more than a year later, he retired. Well, after he retired, more powerful commanders rose up. One of them was named Gnaeus Pompey. And Gnaeus Pompey conquered a bunch of southwestern Asia over here. Southwestern Asia. I mean, here's Asia over here. And the further this way you go in Asia, it's west, 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 west. Southwest Asia. Pompey conquered a bunch of that. And there was another one named another Gaius. It's a very popular name. Gaius Julius Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar conquered Gaul, which was up here. about where Germany is today. So Pompey was over here, Caesar was over here, and these two made friends. They made buddies, and they started ruling all the lands that they were in charge of in their way. They didn't care anything about local culture. They didn't care anything about local tradition. They broke the law. They cared nothing for the law of Rome. They controlled how they wanted to control. But then the two of them got in a fight with each other. They didn't like each other. And the Senate of Rome supported Pompey. They told Caesar he had to give up all of his legions, that's his soldiers. The Senate told Caesar he had to give up everything and pledge allegiance to Pompey. Well, Caesar wasn't down with that. Caesar marched into Rome. Let's go back to the map. Caesar was up here. He marched all the way to Rome with his armies. There was a great big civil war. Caesar defeated Pompey. Caesar defeated the Senate. He was the winner, and Caesar took complete control of all of Rome, all the lands, and named himself dictator for life. Now, Caesar was of the political party that supported the poor. He cared for the poor, he cared for the less fortunate, and he wanted to help them. Caesar made all kinds of laws that helped the poor. Well, the other political people, and remember the Senate has both parties. There are senators that support the poor and senators that don't support the poor. Well, a group of senators that didn't care anything about the poor and didn't like these changes that Caesar was making, and certainly didn't like the fact that he had named himself dictator for life, got together and murdered him on, turn my page, on March 15th in the year 44 BCE. A group of senators murdered Julius Caesar. This day has gone down in infamy as the Ides of March. If you ever hear anyone say, beware the Ides of March, it means March 15th is like bad luck. Something bad might happen to you on March 15th. Beware the Ides of March, because senators got together, senators that didn't like Caesar got together and murdered him on March 15th, 44 BCE. Well, they didn't do enough to save the Republic. Caesar had left in his will that his teenage relative, Octavian was going to be the next leader, the next dictator of Rome. So Octavian took control, swore to have revenge on those senators that killed Caesar. There was another civil war, all the people that supported Octavian versus the people that supported Caesar's murderers. There was a civil war. Octavian won. And sorry, the people that he was fighting sorry, that's true. He defeated the people that had murdered Caesar. After that, there was another civil war. This time, Octavian went against his rival, his enemy, Mark. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Mark Antony. And Mark Antony had partnered with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. No, the Queen of Egypt. This was in the year 30 BCE. So let's go back to the map. Now remember, if you kind of look along the coastline, all of this, all along the Mediterranean Sea, all of this is the Roman Empire. They've conquered Greece, they've conquered Cyprus, all this land is the Roman Empire. But Egypt here, the Queen of Egypt and Mark Antony from Rome have partnered up, and they're trying to defeat Octavian. Well, they lost. Octavian won, and when Octavian won, the Republic, the Roman Republic, collapsed. It was over. Now it's a monarchy. Octavian named himself ruler, himself alone, ruler of all of Rome. And now, now it's a monarchy. It's no longer the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic is destroyed. And now it is the Roman Empire with one ruler named Octavian. Octavian took on a title, and the title he took on was Augustus. Now, this is important to know. Augustus is not a name, it's a title, like King Octavian, Emperor Octavian, Czar Octavian, President Octavian, Teacher Octavian, whatever. It's a title, and it means honored one. Honored one. And why this is so important for you to know is because in the future, you're going to hear about Augustus, Augustus Solstice of Rome, Augustus Emma of Rome, Augustus Eleazar of Rome. Augustus is a title. Don't let it confuse you. Don't think that Augustus is a name. Augustus is a title. That's it. We're finished. The Roman Republic has collapsed. It's done. There is no more Roman Republic. Now we are the Roman Empire with one leader titled Augustus whatever. This one right now is Augustus Octavian, who was a relative of Julius Caesar, who had been killed by senators that didn't care anything about the poor. Okay, I will see you in class. Bye.